going on, guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I have the keys to this beautiful 2012 Maserati GranTurismo MC. Today it's a gorgeous day outside in central New York, and we're going to be taking this Maserati for a spin, and I'm going to be showing you guys in and out what this thing is all about. So as you can see, this is a 2012 Maserati GranTurismo. Now this is the MC version, which means it's kind of a special edition, and it has a few extra bells and whistles to it that you wouldn't get otherwise in a normal GranTurismo. So first, just doing a walk around, as you can see, this is a beautiful low slung two-door sports car, and it is absolutely gorgeous. There is no doubt about that. As you can take a look around, everything about this car super elegantly designed and pretty spectacular. So let's start up front and go over some of the exterior styling cues of the GranTurismo. So if you're not familiar with the GranTurismo at all, this was kind of Maserati's take on the two-door sports car, GT car, you know, kind of daily drivable vehicle. So this is Maserati's, you know, GranTurismo, but this MC, or Maserati Corsa edition, has a few extra special things. So starting up front, the normal GranTurismo on the 2012 and up models will have a kind of, those scoops there will be kind of cut off, and it doesn't have this splitter. So the MC version has this kind of splitter that runs across the front, giving this kind of a stronger jaw and chin, if you will. And then if you come up to the hood, now the MC model's got these kind of enlarged nostrils on the hood, giving it more aggression, and it is actually a functional thing, unlike most vehicles nowadays, and it does help to alleviate some of the heat and the air from the engine. Now you could also opt for a carbon fiber hood on these MC models, which would give you a big kind of snorkel right in the middle of the hood as well, and you could either get that as painted or exposed carbon. And carbon options, as you'll see, are a huge thing with this car. You could really option this thing out and get you know, kind of the spec and how much carbon that you would like on this car. So you can really do whatever you want. But coming over to the side, another option for this GranTurismo are these beautiful kind of Trofeo styled Trident rims. As you can see here, the rim itself kind of mimics that Trident logo that the Maserati brand is so famous for. I believe these are 20-inch rims at the front here, and as you can see, we also have the Maserati brake calipers there in a nice red painted finish, and these are slotted and ventilated and drilled brakes, so definitely some good stopping power. But we have 245 Continental rubber on the front, and if we move our way to the back here, we have 20-inch rims again, and we have 285s on the rear, again with those Maserati brake calipers and the red color. And if you just take a look, I mean, they're beautiful rims finished in that kind of anodized gray gunmetal color, which really suits the look of this car. And if we take a step back to look at the side profile, I mean, this car is absolutely gorgeous. It's a very long and big car. So it's, you know, it's not like you're tiny. My Giulia is kind of a smaller vehicle for its class. This is a very big and substantial car, and it has a lot of road presence too. Also particular to the MC model is this kind of heat extractor on the side, which again is functional. So that lets air from the brakes kind of come through here, and it cools the brakes faster, and it also helps push along the side of the car to give it a little more aerodynamic capability. Obviously you have black window surrounds. You can option for carbon fiber mirrors as well. Your little Maserati logo there on the back pillar. And then if we come around to the back, biggest thing about the MC is this kind of reworked diffuser and exhaust system. So as you can see, this has two kind of center exit exhausts, where the normal GranTurismo would have two oval exhausts kind of on either side there. And this whole new diffuser helps, again, just a little more downforce and a little more performance out of the car, as well as that kind of increased ducktail spoiler, again adding that little bit more aggression to the rear end, but with some downforce and stuff as well. Now obviously this owner has smoked out the tail lights there and done some kind of features and everything, but this is pretty much what you can expect with a GranTurismo. Now let's talk about some of the performance upgrades and some of the other stuff about the GranTurismo. So obviously, while we're back here, let's talk about the exhaust system. The biggest difference with the GranTurismo is this updated exhaust. Now, Maserati has, reworked and kind of retuned this exhaust so that it is a little more lightweight, a little more free-flowing, and it definitely changes the sound of the car as well, which we'll get into in a little bit, and why this is probably one of the best-sounding cars ever made. But this kind of just helps give it a little more free-flowing. It doesn't really add any horsepower or anything, and honestly, the GranTurismo MC in terms of performance isn't all that much faster than the standard GranTurismo. It's more of just kind of some trim options and some cool things, but it does give it a little bit lighter weight, a little more free-flowing, and just help the car be a little more responsive. So that's probably the biggest difference in terms of the performance category in this GranTurismo MC. Now, while we're talking about it, let's find out what powers this GranTurismo MC. All right, so popping the hood, let's go see what's under the hood of this amazing Italian sports car. All right, and so under the hood of the GranTurismo MC, we have a beautiful 4.7 liter naturally aspirated V8. Now, I love that Maserati, this is a 2012 car, so this is when V8s and engines were still in their prime. And look, yeah, we have a lot of plastic in the front here, but you have the most beautiful heart and engine you've ever seen. Now, if you guys are not familiar with this motor, it is a Ferrari derived motor. Actually, the whole block is shared with the Ferrari 430. Now, the only difference between this car and the 430 is the 430 is a flat plane crank V8, whereas the Maserati has kept it a cross plane crank V8. Now, if you're not familiar with kind of what those terms mean, flat plane crank V8 will give you more of that supercar racy feel with a little bit more higher pitched and a little bit more RPM to play with. This is kind of going to be like an Italian muscle car, and you'll hear the way this thing sounds, and it really just encapsulates the perfect GT vehicle engine. Now, this engine produces about 454 horsepower, and I believe it's around 360 pound-feet of torque. That means that this car is good for a 0 to 60 of about 4.7 seconds and a top speed of 185 miles per hour. Now, a lot of people like to claim that the GranTurismo is a slower vehicle, and maybe by today's standards, those figures really aren't the most impressive. But as you'll see when we get behind the wheel, this car is still one to, put a smile on your face, still put you back in your seat, and it definitely defines the perfect balance between a sports car and a GT car. So, without further ado, let's get this engine bay closed up, and then let's take a little tour on what the interior is like. Probably the most controversial part of the GranTurismo altogether. All right, stepping inside the GranTurismo, if we just take a quick look here, I mean, come on. This is a stunning, stunning Maserati, and just a stunning car in general. So let's go over some of the things that you're going to get in a GranTurismo, and let's go over what's specific to this MC variant. First things first, taking a look at the door panel, it says MC Sport line in there, and you have all sorts of gloss carbon fiber all throughout this cabin. Now, on the door panel, you're going to get it right on top by the window. You're going to get some trim there, and then you're going to get some nice leather with beautiful deviated stitching. This is obviously black with some nice red stitching, but super, super, super nice. I mean, this carbon fiber, super high quality. Again, an option that's going to come pretty much standard on your MC variants. Now, if we hop inside and we shut the door, as you can see, we have a beautiful leather-wrapped and carbon-bound steering wheel. So this whole steering wheel here is carbon fiber with obviously leather inserts by your hand. You have these beautiful, like surfboard style, I don't even know if I can capture that really, carbon fiber paddle shifters that just feel so amazing in your hand. Obviously, that is kind of a standard option on the GranTurismo as well. And as you can see in here, this is a beautiful cabin. I mean, the carbon continues over to the gear shifter there, and across your dashboard, you still have that beautiful Maserati analog clock. This was before, Maserati really kind of went away from their roots here. So this is truly an exotic feeling, an Italian sports car. Beautiful gauges on your dash. You do have a, center screen that does light up there, and you'll see that in just a little bit. And then you have these beautiful leather seats with the Maserati Trident stitched in the headrest there. Now, Maserati did go through a few iterations of the GranTurismo. So this is a 2012 model, or a kind of pre-facelift model. So these seats here are the standard seats. After 2013, they upgraded them to a little more like of a performance-oriented seat. So you get, you know, a little more bolstering and all that, but these seats are super comfy. And honestly, I think they're perfect. And as well in the Gran Turismo, now you might think this is, oh, just a two-door sports car, but this is a true GT car, a 2+2. So you have 2 full seats in the back with an armrest, cup holders. And I've been, you know, I've sat back there before. I'm about 5'10", and it's honestly pretty comfy. But I mean, looking around in here, this car, it looks pretty nice. Now, a lot of people like to harp on this kind of section here, the infotainment of this car. They like to say that the technology truly lacks behind, you know, the likes of its competitors like the Porsche 911 and cars like that. And while that might be true, this kind of center screen, I mean, you don't really use it in the car because it really doesn't work the greatest. And some of these buttons, you know, don't really do anything for you. But when you're buying this car, as you'll see, you're buying this car for the drive and, you know, the way it makes you feel. You're not really buying it for the technology. It's good enough to, you know, to get where you need to be. You have a radio and all that kind of stuff, but it is a little cumbersome to use. I don't think that's a deal breaker for this car, though. I think that, I mean, when you're sitting inside it, it still feels quality. You have aluminum pedals down there with your MC logo, leather wrapped, everything. And it's a beautiful place to be and a beautiful place to sit. So I don't think that the interior quality that people like to say, you know, these get the cases of the sticky buttons and all that. This example has over 45,000 miles, and there's not a single sticky button in this car. So, you know, as long as you take care of these vehicles and you do them well, people like to say the reliability is bad. I really don't see that as much. If you take care of these cars, they will treat you right. I also would just like to touch on the price of this car real quick before we start going on a drive. This car new MSRP'd for about $150,000, which a lot of people say is a ridiculous figure. And, you know, I can almost understand it, but these cars have kind of tanked in depreciation. So, I mean, the owner picked this one up for mid-40s. And for mid-40s, a clean example like this with relatively low mileage that runs this great and feels this good, I mean, you really can't complain. So yes, maybe, you know, the infotainment and all those kind of little quirks and features that this car has that aren't the greatest could have been, you know, kind of upsetting for paying 150 grand, but for paying in the realm of, you can get one of these for 30 grand to $50,000, you really can't complain. And especially when you see the driving experience, you'll agree with me. So I think this is a beautiful place to be. And if you're concerned at all with this kind of stuff, in 2018, Maserati underwent another facelift with the Gran Turismo right before it was discontinued. And you got a kind of touchscreen rework stuff and, you know, a newer steering wheel and even better gauges and infotainment screen and all that stuff. So, you know, Maserati did do some changes, but they kept the heart of the car, that beautiful V8, the same. So that's pretty much a tour of this vehicle. I don't want to waste too much more time because where this car truly shines is on the road. So let's get this thing fired up. We'll give you some amazing exhaust clips because honestly, that's probably the best part of this car. So let's get it fired up, get some exhaust clips, and then we'll take it for a drive. All right, so driving the Gran Turismo. And as you can hear already, this thing sounds absolutely amazing. That naturally aspirated V8 is always kind of in the cabin. We got it in sport mode, so this is going to be the most aggressive mode. It's going to open the baffles in the exhaust system, so we're going to get the full sound of this amazing car, and we're going to get the heightened throttle response and the faster transmission changes and all that too. So one thing about the MC that they kind of updated too was the transmission. So when these cars first came out, they had the F1 Duo Select transmission, which was kind of a semi-automatic Ferrari-inspired transmission, and it kind of wasn't very good. It was kind of crap, and many people didn't really like the way it worked. And they replaced it for this ZF 6-speed transmission a few years down the line, and that's what this MC has. But in the MC model, Maserati kind of tuned it to be a little more responsive and a little more aggressive, especially in the sport mode when you're really on it. So this car definitely rewards you the faster you go because those shifts kind of increase in speed and definitely throw you back in your seat a little bit more. But I'm not going to bore you with the driving in normal mode because nobody wants to hear the valves closed on this car because it sounds so good. So we're going to just stay in sport mode, and I'll give you guys my review on how this thing drives. First thing you notice is that this car is actually very easy to maneuver around. You're always kind of acutely aware of the size of the hood because it is just so long and the nose slopes down pretty steeply, so you kind of have to stop a little bit before you think you need to, just so you have some extra room. But it's very easy to drive. The steering is pretty light and responsive. I thought it would be a lot more heavy considering this is a hydraulic rack, but it's super easy to maneuver around, and you know, it's pretty comfortable. The suspension on this MC has been tuned slightly, so it's a little more aggressive than the standard GranTurismo, but it's still pretty comfortable around town, and kind of just float this car wherever you need it to go. Now, I also didn't mention this GranTurismo is rear-wheel drive, so you have all 400 horsepower going to that, the rear wheels, and you can turn off traction control as well, but I'm not going to do that today because I don't want to put this car into the ditch. But as you can hear, just a little bit of acceleration on this thing, and you get a pretty incredible noise. I mean, this V8 just loves to howl. I also would like to mention that this GranTurismo does have a set of Urutu X pipes on it, so it's just slightly louder than the stock MC would be, but pretty much is exactly the same tone and all that. The next thing you notice while you're driving the GranTurismo is actually the transmission. Around town, especially in the normal mode, it's pretty comfortable and it's non-intrusive when you're kind of just putting it around town. But as soon as you put it in sport mode, you hear it holds on to those gears, and it actually makes some really good decisions, this transmission. Like when you put your foot down, it's very, very quick to respond and all that. So let's just give a little space between me and this guy, and then we're gonna put our foot down and just see how this GranTurismo responds. As you can see, I mean, the pickup is incredible. This being naturally aspirated means that you're not waiting around for turbos to spool up or anything like that. You put your foot down and it goes. The transmission can be slightly sluggish just because, you know, it's trying to work out what gear it puts you in, but as soon as it makes that decision, it's in the right gear and you're in the power band, and this thing is flying. It definitely rewards you. The faster you go, the more you put your foot into it, the more this thing wants to, just get up and go, and it feels so much more lively. But honestly, this car is super fun to drive. Now, a lot of people like to say that this thing is slow or whatever because, only 450 horsepower, 0 to 60 in about 5 seconds is not the fastest. And I'll agree that by today's standards, it's not the fastest thing in the world. But, I mean, if you give it a little gas, I mean, this thing still has some incredible pickup, and it's exactly what it should be. It's a GT car. I mean, if we just pop it back into normal mode, the valves close, the transmission will shift up, and this becomes a super comfy car to drive. I mean, you can barely hear that V8 anymore. It went from roaring and screaming to just a comfy cruiser that you can go on a road trip with. But as soon as you put it back into sport mode, those valves open, you give it a little gas, and it's one of the funnest cars I've ever driven. So, I mean, this car, yeah, it's not about the 0 to 60 speeds or anything like that. It's more about the journey of driving it and how it makes you feel when you're driving it. I mean, if you don't smile while you're driving this car, then you probably don't have a soul, because this thing is incredibly fun to drive. Now, being over 4,000 pounds and kind of having a hydraulic rack, this isn't going to be a Ferrari track car, but it's still a very impressively handling vehicle. We don't have too many curves up here, but if you just kind of move the car side to side, you can feel that it's very willing and very planted in the front end, and it likes to, just kind of shoot wherever you want to go. It enjoys the kind of longer sweeper corners, the technical corners. It might lose to something like a 911 or something like that, and those kind of slower, more technical corners. But on those fast sweepers, I mean, this thing hunkers down, and it really likes to go. And then if you want, you can also throw this car into manual mode just by flicking the gear lever over once, and you can play with these beautiful carbon fiber paddle shifters. And in manual mode, the transmission also gains a little bit more of that responsiveness. And this car is just fantastic to drive. I mean, it's so much fun. And you can just play this engine and exhaust like an orchestra. And it really does just put a smile on your face, and that's what this car is all about. I mean, on the used market for 50 grand, you can't really beat this. It's, and the sense of speed that you get with this car is also incredible. I mean, you really don't feel like you're going as fast as you do because you're sitting inside the vehicle. The seating position is absolutely fantastic, and these seats just hug you really, really well. And you know, you're comfortable, but yet you can get pretty much anywhere with a lot of speed and a lot of style. So I mean, this car honestly is one of the better GT cars I've driven, and it truly defines what it means for a car to be a GT car. If I just roll down these windows here a little bit. Now, normally in most cars when I'm filming, I'm worried about when I roll down the window, the wind noise, but this thing, the exhaust is just so loud and so awesome that you don't even have to worry about the wind noise because it just overpowers it. All right, so let's give the GranTurismo one last acceleration, and then we'll kind of discuss my final thoughts on this car and whether you should buy it or you should kind of avoid this vehicle. Second gear.
So what's my final take on the GranTurismo? Well, this MC variant has got to be one of the best GT cars ever produced. Its acceleration is strong and earns its keep. It has good brakes that stop you quickly, and despite being a pretty luxurious and heavy vehicle, it also steers and handles really well. This car has curvaceous and gorgeous styling and an intoxicating V8 exhaust noise that just never ceases to put a smile on your face. While this car may lack the technological advancements of the Porsche 911 or the straight-line speed of the Jaguar F-Type, you can forgive all of those things because this car has a true soul and has a passion that just draws you into it and connects you to the road and just makes you feel alive again. That's what this car has that those ones don't, a soul. And it reminds you what it means to drive a vehicle. It reminds you that it's not about that destination, but about the journey along the way. And if you don't have a smile on your face while driving this car, then you must hate cars, because this thing truly is a pleasure and a joy to drive. And that's what it's all about. It's truly an attention-grabbing Ferrari on a budget for under $50,000 that can get you where you need to go refreshed, but also with a smile on your face too. And I can't think of a better car to remind us what cars are really all about than this MC.
So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. I hope to get more seat time behind this GranTurismo, but I don't want to go too crazy because this isn't my car. But I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We're going to have more awesome cars like this on the channel pretty soon. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.